Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new episode of We Talk, WeCrashed. We're going to be breaking down episode 5 of WeCrashed. Hustle harder. That's going to be on my tombstone. That's for damn sure. We are so excited to be breaking down this episode and talking about everything that happened in here, storyline-wise and character-wise. It's going to be a lot of fun. I am one of your hosts. I am the Outlaw, John Rocha, and I'm joined by these two wonderful people from the Hollywood Critics Association as well. The great Nikki Fowler. How are you, Nikki?
Hey, John. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. I'm jumping into this. We're going to hustle through this whole episode. Griffin Schiller, how are you, Griffin?
I'm great. Let's get into this. I just love every week that we can, talk about these horrible people.
Wow. Said it straight up.
Brings me joy, right?
That's good stuff. And for those of you who are watching, please remember to comment down below as we go along or after the show is over, whatever you feel like doing, and subscribe to the Hollywood Critics Association as well. And don't forget to put that hashtag We Talk WeCrashed when you post any comments or post this video on your social media, and we hope you do so as well. And if you want to send comments in, or if you want to send some emails in to let us know how you feel about the show or what we've talked about, please make sure you do that at shows@hollywoodcriticsassociation.com. That's shows@hollywoodcriticsassociation.com, and we will read some on the air. We definitely have a couple of comments to read later on in the show as we get into it. All right, this is a spoiler episode. Just letting you know, spoiler review, in case you've just found us randomly out of the blue. We will be spoiling things, so if you haven't seen episode 5, go and watch it and come on back here. And before we break down episode 5 of WeCrashed, I had the pleasure to sit down with Drew Crevello and Lee Eisenberg, the two creators of the show, to talk to them about their series and how it's going so far, and tease a little bit of what might be coming up next for the end of the season. Gentlemen, how are you? How are you? For the Adam and Rebekah of the creators of this show, how are you two gentlemen?
We're doing great. You'll have to decide which one of us is the Adam and which one of us is the Rebekah.
I'll let you know by the end of the interview.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, don't forget the Miguel.
Oh, yes. Which one's the Miguel?
I'm the Adam and the Miguel.
I'll be the Miguel since I'm the Latino. I'll do that. I do want to ask you right off the bat. I'll ask you some spoiler stuff, but I want to ask you general stuff first real quick. What drew you both to this story? I've seen the documentary last year. I started listening to the podcast on a 2-hour drive to LA when I was asked to become one of the hosts for this this review show rather. And I was just struck by so much about this story. What connected to both of you, both as human beings, but as writers and showrunners as well?
I had read a few articles about WeWork, over the last few years. Definitely was aware of it. I had a meeting in a WeWork, and the podcast was sent to me. Wondery and I were trying to find something to do together, and I devoured it. And Drew's one of my best friends. We've been trying to, find something to do together for years now. I sent it to him, and when we started talking about it initially, the thing that we both connected on was the Adam and Rebekah relationship. Mm-hmm. There's a love story at the center of this. And that felt, we both love rise and fall stories, love stories about finance and private planes and all of that. But what was so kind of what grounded it were these two characters, and the fact that that because of this love story, that's how this $47 billion valuation came to be. And that it wasn't, people have asked us, why did you decide to focus on the love story? And from our perspective, and we've spoken to a lot of people about that were, very much in the trenches of WeWork. There would be no WeWork without Adam. There would also be no WeWork without Rebekah.
We had mapped out tons of negotiation scenes and business scenes, and what we found was like everything paled in comparison to just Adam and Rebekah and the kind of dynamic between them. And we just kept coming back to really what was the most interesting part of the story. And sure, I mean, Adam had plenty of finance meetings and meetings with his teams at WeWork, but it's really what he and Rebekah are talking about and how she's influencing his thinking and how, she starts to kind of shape the company. That's the unique stuff that makes it different than any other business story we ever heard before.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I'd add to that too is, as writers, I mean, we want to get all the financials right. And I think that there's plenty of scenes in the show that have fun, and you're watching the negotiations and you're seeing the numbers increase and all of that, but it all needs to come from character. And so you want to understand how Adam is able to convince all of these people with a company that has a valuation that's so far out of whack with their financials. Right. And I think that Jared is mesmerizing. And I think you see all of these moments where he's so compelling in his sales pitch to prospective employees and to when he's even a student at Baruch College, or all of that stuff. And when you see him trying to kind of sell prospective tenants.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, his superpower was talking and salesmanship. I now understand. You've now created the shorthand so that when you see him with Massa or when you see him with Bruce Dunleavy or any of those moments, you understand why people on both sides of the table, both Adam and the investors, why both sides are so afraid to lose the other.
The scenes that you see are us exploring what might have made Adam Neumann tick.
Yeah. With Rebekah is an interesting journey we're going on. Of course, Anne Hathaway also doing a wonderful job and all the physical changes. She's spoken about the diet and the change to look like Rebekah. And she comes really close, which is incredible to see.
What we found with Rebekah is she's complicated, like all of us. And the fact, what must it be like to want to be a professional actress and your first cousin is Gwyneth Paltrow? She's winning an Oscar. She's dating the most famous men in the world. And Rebekah is a struggling actress. And she moves out to LA to become an actress. And that doesn't work out. And then she goes to India and she's studying under the Dalai Lama. And then she becomes a yogini. And all of these steps, it felt like Rebekah is a searcher and that she hadn't quite kind of latched onto her thing. And that was something that we dramatized, particularly in the first 4 episodes. And it continues on through the rest of the season. Is I think there's a restlessness. I think it's also hard when you want to be, an actor and actress is kind of out in front of everyone. Mm-hmm. She leaves kind of Gwyneth Paltrow in a way, and then she marries Adam Neumann. Adam Neumann is the rock star. Adam Neumann is the star. And we see that dramatized at the end of episode 2 when he's at the JP Morgan conference and Rebekah's watching him.
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway's face, I think in the span of 12 seconds makes about 100 different expressions of jealousy and excitement and frustration and admiration and envy,
pride,
incredible. and then coming up later in episode 5, we'll see again how Rebekah deals with being kind of next to the person who is the that burns so bright.
Well, let's talk about Miguel. There's another character in this triumvirate here. I mean, let's start. I mean, this is
I feel like in typical Miguel fashion, he's been forgotten about until very late in this.
We have 15 seconds left. Let's talk about Miguel.
But yeah, I mean, what a phenomenal performance here. And Miguel, the character,
amazing.
He's just so good from the beginning. You connect to him, you care about him. He is almost, I know you're telling the story through the eyes of Adam and Rebekah, but Miguel is almost us. Like, we're watching this all happen. We're seeing him react to it. And he's caught up with this stuff with Adam. He actually wants to help Adam. And so when you're creating and you're right, and he's starting to slowly move to the side a little bit, you can see the power of him moving a little bit to the left. How important was it for you to establish him so early in the story here?
First of all, what really helped was Kyle Marvin is just so excellent in the role and is such like an innately empathetic person that I think he was able to, you really feel for him, right? Like when Rebekah starts to kind of really elbow him out of the way, you just feel for this guy because, he's kind and he's gentle and he's all these things. What was really tricky about the Miguel character and what I think Kyle nailed so well and which you see in episode 4 is as empathetic as he is and as much as you see him kind of slowly being pushed out of the way and things are coming in the coming episodes. I mean, episode 7, it really kind of reaches its kind of climax.
Wow.
But in addition to feeling for him as being pushed out of the way, you also get more and more frustrated with Miguel because he could stand up to Adam in some of these moments and say, hey, this is a great idea for a business. We've got something special here. Like, we're starting to go off the rails. Like, hey, buddy, like, let's pump the brakes or let's do this differently. Yeah. And in episode 4, as I mentioned, there's that moment where, one of the employees who's so frustrated with Adam and how the company's being run turns to Miguel and is looking for him to do something. And he just gets up on stage with Adam and parties.
We used to be okay with the gray, but we seem to have slid back into this spot now where we want to we're fascinated by these people, but we need to pass judgment on them so we can put them in a certain place. I wonder for both of you, what was the challenge as you were building these characters? what was the challenge of like teetering too far over the line one way or the other when you were constructing this show? Did you have to pull yourself back from one thing in order to make it a more nuanced and layered approach to these characters?
I think for us, like I said, we dug in and did so much research, and the more you dig into people, you develop empathy for them. And so there was no interest in us from the beginning. There's plenty of funny things in it. And I think there's comedy where you're laughing with them and comedy that you're laughing at them, as there is in real life. But we never set the show up to be like, oh, we're going to take these people down. Right. What we wanted to do is kind of create a 360-degree version of them, to create these dimensionalized characters where you're rooting for them at times. You want to strangle them at times. You want to shake them. And like that to us as writers is a challenge where your allegiances change from episode to episode. And that was something that we always talked about. And what are the mechanisms that allow somebody or a company to grow from having, no spaces to all of a sudden they're, over the course of 10 years, they're worth $47 billion. What are the financial institutions? What are these, these VCs that come in and are all kind of part of it? That we talked a lot about FOMO, all of these things kind of go into the stew of the show. And, early days, we were exploring all of these different things, and should we cut to different perspectives? And ultimately seeing all of it through Adam and Rebekah's eyes was the most interesting version of it. Right. But again, we weren't trying to, like, there's a scene in episode 2 where Rebekah does that Russian accent.
Yes. Oh my God.
Play. Yeah. And people laugh. It's a funny scene. And, certainly, I'm a comedy writer, and I understand what the nature of the comedy of that scene is. Right. The scene after it is her in the stairwell, and she realizes in that moment, she talks to her kind of the director afterwards, and she realizes that she's not going to make it as an actress. She doesn't have the skills. She has her bouquet of flowers, and she just breaks down by herself. Right. And that's the moment that's actually more important. That's the revealing moment. Not that she's a bad actress or that she made the wrong choice. It's realizing that the life that you've chosen is not going to be the life that you lead.
Right. And then she has this dismissive moment with the director later where she has almost shut her out. Like, I don't want to be reminded of that life anymore. You're out. And it shuts her down pretty hard. And so I always find that to be fascinating about both of these characters when they make these decisions, all of a sudden, boom, like Adam using his dad, in essence, to make the connection with Masayoshi-san. How much of what we see in the show is accurate? Like, in terms of the instances, you said you've done this research, you've had these conversations. Is any of that for creative license, or did all of that happen in their story?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's sort of inevitable, right? I mean, this is a dramatic portrayal, right? It's not a documentary, and for us, like, what was most interesting was trying to figure out, like, what did these two talk about, right? What happened in the moments in between the moments that were publicly reported? Right. And to do that, that's why, to go back to all the research and interviews that we did, by kind of constructing these psychological profiles and really trying to get a sense of who they were, we felt like we were able to kind of like extrapolate, like, okay, what were they talking about around this time? But we're in their bedroom when they're having intimate conversations. We're at the dinner table with them and their kids. No one was there, right? So you have to sort of, take dramatic license and kind of, and sort of just dramatize, your interpretation of events.
We have 15 years at most to turn the climate crisis around. And meat consumption is the #1 cause of climate change. And now with the plane, we have to offset our carbon footprint.
I'll read the article. Okay, I'll read it. It takes me a while.
I don't care about the article. I just want you to do something. Okay, I want us to do something to save our children's planet. Okay, no meat in our kitchens, no meat in our business meals, no meat.
That's not the.
No. But we can't say that we want to change the world and then remain complicit in the animal industrial complex until we completely eliminate meat. WeWork is a joke.
Joke.
Yes.
Okay, I'll think about it.
I already thought about it.
All right, this one is called Hustle Harder. Kind of brings up shades of the Kim Kardashian recently interview saying people need to work harder. Certainly people are working hard in this episode of WeCrashed here. Nikki, so much to talk about. Adam here is going crazy, needing to make more money, needing to use that money to like push these new WeWork places out in so many different locations and cities around the world. The stress of Masa's money now. Once you get the 4.4 billion, it's what you do with the 4.4 billion that becomes essential. We have the stuff with Rebekah going on, trying to figure out where she belongs. Rebekah and Elishia having a bit of a possible breakup here as Adam and Rebekah get back together a little more strongly. And then, of course, we also have Masa kind of hanging over everything. So tell me, what was your overall thoughts about this episode 5 in the series?
I thought it was a lot of fun and lots of humor, as we discussed on the last episode.
Yes.
That this, there's a lot of laugh out loud moments, with Miguel in the office when they're doing that impromptu dance. I don't know if that was planned or not with Adam there with the 5 families. And, getting to see more of what he's doing with this 4.4 billion. And then the light bulb going off on, hey, Masa invested in Alibaba 20 million, which they flipped to 150 billion. Yeah. So the pressure is on, and we're seeing them scramble to, scale the company, and not really in the most ethical ways. Yeah. I thought, a lot of the funny scenes with him trying to, with the construction in the beginning and the mice and the decorative toilets, all this stuff was pretty funny. And then Rebekah and Elishia, which we'll get to. I have a lot to say on that. Really loved that deep dive into the two of them.
Absolutely. I didn't know there was a Chinese word for ball pit, and now I do. So after seeing this episode. So Griffin, talk to me. How did you feel about this episode 5 here? That, we're past the halfway point in the series. This is jettisoning us into these last 4 episodes.
Yeah, this might have been my favorite episode of the series, as we were kind of talking before we started, just because I think of how concise it was. We finally have the establishing of the company set in place. We understand these people, so they can be a little bit more shorthand in terms of like them going around and whatnot. And so I think we got to the meat of just like Adam and Rebekah and their kind of the full extent of their manipulation, I guess, right? We've seen them be really shady people throughout the entire show, and I think in this episode in particular, Adam basically just like trying to put a monopoly on like the co-working space environment, just swallowing these other companies whole, and then like Rebekah just completely, throwing Elishia under the bus and just like stealing her position from her. There's just a lot of just like really questionable decisions that go down in this episode that I think are ultimately going to come back to bite them in the ass, and that's going to be a big reason of what leads to their downfall. Also, we also briefly talked about this, but like the idea of their mission statement kind of changing episode to episode. Like it started out as like, elevating the world's consciousness, and then Adam's like, no, we're here to cure loneliness, and then it's back to elevating the world's consciousness. I think it kind of speaks to the back and forth of Adam and Rebekah in terms of just like their overall vision for the company. And when Rebekah's in there talking about saving the soul of the company, she's really talking about like just getting her face out there as much as Adam's face is out there. So while there weren't a whole lot of like butting heads between Rebekah and Adam in this episode, you did feel that kind of like friction between the two of them and like how they do business. Yeah, it's a great point you bring up here. And Nikki, I'll go back to you. Listen, both of them are scrambling. Both of them are scrambling in different ways, I would say. Griffin, bringing up excellent points here. Rebekah's scrambling to figure out where she belongs in this, and this has been happening over 3 episodes now. We really see some of the uglier characteristics of Rebekah's way of handling things when she's uncomfortable with someone around, or someone's in her office, or she's envious of someone coming in and taking her supposed, soul of the company stuff. She's going to let them go or remove their titles and do what she needs to do to reassert her strength. And then Adam over here scrambling around trying to figure out how he can keep opening these offices and keep opening these businesses and making all these deals so he doesn't disappoint Masa. We're leading us to this meeting with Masa there that they have with Miguel. So what did you think about watching both of these characters scramble throughout this episode?
Yeah, I didn't see them both equally in the same way as being manipulative.
This is okay. All right, let's see.
Let me break
this
down Rebekah a little bit.
Please.
I'm giving her a pass as the series goes on. I'm just taking it for what I see each episode. I mean, we do know in real life the true story, but with Rebekah, you have to look at it as this is a woman who put $1 million of her family's money into this company and her vision and idea to push Adam out there to do this. And she's having to, when she's brushed aside at the time 100, he's saying, this is about us, this is for us. And it's always we. And in real life interviews, he calls her the boss. He puts her on this pedestal, but it's such a muddy water because at the office, people have no respect for her. She has an office and, don't wear shoes in my office, but there are people tracking through. Yeah. And the way she's doing it is kind of awful, not giving anyone like a warning. She's just letting them go. Yeah. But you have to look at it from her side a little bit that, she's an investor and $1 million is a lot of money to invest in a startup. And she just doesn't feel like she's part of the company up to this point. And so I kind of felt for a little bit of there's no title for her. And so this whole interaction with Elishia, we have to remember Elishia knew about WeWork prior to speaking with Rebekah, but she didn't let on that she did. And so we have to ask, why did she keep that a secret? Why didn't she say, hey, I know about your company. Your husband's been trying to recruit me. Right. So there is something there. The writing is so good on this because you just don't know what the motives are. Right. And then coming from a business aspect, I see Rebekah as seeing someone infiltrating their company and basically, touche, she kind of said, look, we're not firing you, but you don't have that position. And, there's a lot of, dumpster fire stuff that happens, but you have to look at it from someone who invested money, who also is part of the vision. Right. And, companies are competitive. And just because maybe they're two women and they're having this duel, it's business, but she didn't fire her.
No. Please, Griffin.
Yeah, to your point, I completely agree with everything you said. I think when I just see her and I see her what she kind of ends up doing to a lot of people who did nothing to slight her maybe like little things here or there in the company, it just becomes like very erratic, I guess, behavior because she's trying to claim some sense of power in this, company where she ultimately has none, and not even like necessarily in the company, just in life in general. She feels like she has no power. So, like, I don't remember the scene specifically, but there was I think it was the Time 100 event that she went to, and she was kind of like brushed to the side. And the next day she comes in and she fires someone because that gives her a little bit of power, and no one can really say no to her because she's kind of in that gray area of, is she with the company? Is she not? But I think her thinking that Elishia, joined the company because she saw Rebekah as her way in might be a little bit of her insecurities showing, because I do think that friendship between her and Elishia is at least like illustrated as being genuine. Like, I do think that they are friendly with each other. I do think that like Rebekah helped Elishia in like kind of move past her divorce in a sense, but at the same time, I do understand why Rebekah would be feeling the way that she does about Elishia, and especially when she she already has these feelings about her, and then she goes and she says she sees Elishia saying the exact same things that she said to that Rebekah said to Elishia to like a client in order to get business, and so that obviously makes the light bulb go off in Rebekah's mind that I can do this job. She's literally just taking my words
taking her persona.
Exactly.
Right.
So
the problem is that she's parachuting in. This is the issue. Yeah. Like, she is not there at the office all the time. She's not even really. Have we seen her mother her children at all, rather than making an occasional comment or picking her kids up so she can conveniently be there? Right, because Adam's running the company. He's actually there at the office doing things. What is Rebekah doing with all her downtime and then parachuting in now because, as Elishia said, you've got no light of your own, and that's what you're looking for.
I thought that was very bitter to say in that interaction because Rebekah was still, she didn't fire her. She just was, touching her that
she didn't even tell her she was going to demean her or take her title.
Elishia didn't say, I'm coming into your company,
we don't know that. That's your theory that she did that.
Is it?
Yes. I thought no, Rebekah accused her of it. Doesn't mean it's true.
Elishia I thought didn't even pick up the phone when Rebekah was calling her. Remember all that?
Once she got in, because Rebekah, because a little too needy. Maybe Elishia didn't want to pick up the phone so much.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's my theory.
I think Elishia is still very calculated in that whole scene, like you said, about, taking on her persona and wanting to change things. And in business, you have a lot of that. You have people that will use your brand to jumpstart something else. Right. I brought this up as far as investors. They'll, use your brand for the glossy and go and make deals here and there. So, Masa could have been doing that too with WeWork originally. Certainly. But that whole dynamic, I just looked at it from a business aspect of, it's cutthroat out there. Well, I'm not approving or disapproving. I'm just saying that.
I think what you said earlier is fantastic. I mean, the idea that they have such great writers there that they're having the three of us kind of you don't know. No, don't know, and figuring out our point. I was very solid when I came in. And then you started talking and laying your points out, and Griffin laid some points out, and I was like, maybe I'm questioning a little bit, because I just was on Elishia's side the whole time. And when she told her what's what, I was like, hell yeah, you tell her what's what. Now you're telling me that maybe that was a little bitterness. I don't know.
I look at it from a point of women in business as well, and everybody can't be an Elishia. There are Elishias, but then there's also Rebekahs too. People can't find their way all the time as women, and Dave Chappelle said years ago when he went out of the industry and came back, he said maybe it's not the person, maybe it's the environment or the industry. And typically the society doesn't raise women to be founders of companies, and I talked about those facts on the last review that we did. So I'm a little bit more patient with Rebekah. I'm not saying I'm like approving of everything she's doing.
Are you excusing her firing a dude for putting fries on, or them having the meeting because she's never in the office?
Absolutely, that's completely sporadic, and that's just not the way that you do things. And she doesn't really have the skill set. And again, she's not there, but I still look at her as someone, she invested in the company.
That's fair.
So it's like this little balance.
I think a lot of this kind of speaks to the original problem, which is that Adam got all of his kind of like inspiration. Like, when she was asked, are you a magician, a maverick, or a muse? She's very clearly a muse, and she even admits that she's a muse and she wants to change that. Or at least the brand guy is like, well, okay, don't you want to change that? Right. But like Adam, you constantly uses her as a source for inspiration for like his brilliant ideas, and like he keeps telling her that she's a part of the company, that is a WeWork, like them working together to create this company. Yet she does not have a definitive title and position within the company. So if the guy who runs the company isn't even giving her the credit on paper that she deserves, he can say whatever he wants. He's a really great sweet talker, but if he's not giving her the credit that she deserves on paper, then how is that supposed to like trickle down into the rest of the people?
Yeah,
so it's like so you finally want, so like I get why she reacts the way that she does, and she's kind of backed into a corner now where she has to start being scrappy.
Wait a minute. You guys are taking her agency away from her. She backed herself into her corner. She backed herself into this situation. She's the one that parachuted in, parachuted out. She's off in floaty land talking about how we need to veganize the whole company and randomly reading an article and saying we need to save the earth for our children. She's an absolutely lost soul who was terrible at everything she does.
I don't believe that.
It wasn't even her money. It was her dad's money. But it was $1 million. And so, but all that being said,
Adam couldn't even buy dinner when she met him.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So, but you both make an excellent point. She certainly was a massive inspiration in WeWork happening, and you can't deny that. It's just weird when she has no business experience at all running anything, let alone her own yoga studio or her own yoga class, even, for her to swoop on in and think she knows what's up and want all this respect when she's done little to no work other than, inspiring Adam at certain moments. I think
he used her, in real life, to the benefit of the company quite a bit.
And I want to come back on you, because a couple episodes ago you said Adam's off doing these deals. Miguel is doing the hard work. What is the hard work that Rebekah's doing in the couch?
Listen, I didn't say she was a Miguel.
Well, she's elevating the company's consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
She's elevating everyone's
abstractly
consciousness.
Means, as Elishia calls it.
Well, but that's the difference between WeWork and all of these the 5 families. They're doing the same thing. And WeWork has this culture, this, now technology and, the real estate all combined into one that has gotten them this valuation and all of this investment. Yeah. So that's her essence.
That's fair. And let's go ahead. You want one last point?
Go ahead.
Let's and you speak about the other co-working space, the other co-working companies. Certainly that becomes a big issue in this episode. Let's move on to that. Griffin, I'll go to you first on this one.
Yeah.
Adam now. How do you see Adam, inspired by the 4.4 billion?
Right.
Masa is delaying his responses when he's trying to show off to Masa that he got IBM aboard. He got all this stuff. And Masa's not happy to the point where Masa brings him in to have this conversation with him and Miguel. And he said, I didn't bring you here to talk about numbers. I'm trying to inspire you. I need you to be even crazier, which of course leads to Bruce and Cameron having that exchange. But here is Adam, and he's opening up places all over the place, opening up places, and he's celebrating it. 13 countries, I think it is, or 22 cities, 13 countries, but a lot of places open. So he's constantly going around. And then by the end, he is now firmly in place with a jet, with Masa's money, with all these things opening up, and now crushing his competitors, bringing them onto private jets, making them fly over so he can set up an installation with an actor he hired to completely embarrass a real-life CEO here. What did you think about his behavior throughout the whole episode and what happened with him?
Yeah, this is his metamorphosis into the wolf of WeWork, right? Or like the wolf of co-working spaces. That's good. I think it's interesting how we see both Adam and, I'm just going to go back to Rebekah just for a second. We see both Adam and Rebekah going through these kind of soul-searching journeys, and I think it speaks to the larger issue with the company is that they're selling something abstract because the founders don't really know what it is they're selling. They're trying to figure it out themselves. They're trying to discover themselves. And so the entire idea behind the company is just so untangible, and they're unsure, and it's a little wishy-washy. It's going back and forth. And I think this episode, we finally see them take that step to becoming the final version of themselves that they kind of want to be, or that they need to be, I guess. With Adam, he's a guy who's always talked a big game since the moment that we've met him, but it's never been to the extent that we see in this episode. He hasn't gone crazy enough, right? I love that whole question that Masa poses is if you have a fight between a smart guy and a crazy guy, who's going to win? Right. And Adam says,
which
the
is
crazy
real,
guy.
by the way. That is actually that has been reported a number of places. Masa actually asked him that, and that's what helps solidify Adam even more with Masa.
Yeah, I mean, Adam needed to be pumped full of that. Look, you're just simply not there yet. You think you're there. You think you've got it all figured out. You think you have this company all figured out, but you don't. And it's because you don't have yourself figured out. And Masa basically just lets the final form version of Adam off the leash. And that's where we get these really extreme cases of him, bulldozing over these co-working spaces and, basically trying to get a monopoly on the market there. Yeah. And it's, I think it's effective. And the same thing kind of happens for Rebekah too. It's after the interactions with Elishia, and she realizes that Elishia is kind of taking her words and putting them into practice, and basically creating a role in the company that she can do, at least she thinks that she can do. That gives her the strength to be you know what? No, I'm going to take control of my own agency and actually be a part of this company on paper. So a lot of this episode, I think, is about that metamorphosis of the characters, and with Adam, it is it's taking that final step.
Well, I wanted to add, and also I was thinking, what match lit under everyone, and it's that $4.4 billion. Even with Rebekah, she's house hunting, $13.5 million house hunting, and money has moved everyone, and Adam's having to pivot fast and take out the competition because he doesn't have a plan yet. So that's his first inclination of what can I do.
And we hear it's 33 trillion. I can't even conceive of that number.
That he writes it on the guy's head.
He writes it on the guy's head. Which is
obnoxious.
And we're seeing Well, it's funny. It's funny how you're going after Adam, but
I thought
no.
You thought it was obnoxious.
I
was laughing. I'm laughing at Jared. I'm laughing at the whole scene.
Yeah,
and
it was
also
brilliant.
where he's got the wolf mask on and he's like humming, coming in the office humming after that little breakout dance.
He's such a, this just continues that line of like immaturity, right? And like he's just like lashing out in random ways, and that meeting with the 5 families, like conceivably on paper, like is actually kind of like a cool thing where they can kind of come together and just like create this environment where they're all working for like a nice collective good. And then you've got this freaking guy in here with like a wolf mask. He's dancing to the Harlem Shakeout in the like, you know, lobby and everything. He comes back in and they're like, we can't have a serious conversation with this guy.
Do you think he planned that?
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely. No, the fact that he,
everything.
Yeah, the fact that he can do something like that is him flexing on them. He's like, oh, you guys are worried about like how you're gonna like sustain as a business and all this stuff, and it's like, I don't care. I can like half listen to your conversation and be out there like doing this internet trend and all this
and
stuff.
then he says, I'm going to the time 100. Are any of you?
Yeah,
I was just like,
he's
so
crushing them.
snarky.
He's crushing them.
So humiliating.
Yeah, but that's how you play the game. The way he plays the game is to absolutely, he's like shark in the water, right?
Yeah.
He wants to destroy them and humiliate them and emasculate them so that eventually they will acquiesce and sell him all the shares, and he owns everything, which is what Masa told him to do.
Yeah,
you got to be crazier, and certainly we're seeing him be crazier and indulging these impulses to destroy everyone around him because maybe he held back in the past for, as you said, wanting to get along. I mean, you're not elevating people's consciousness if you're destroying them under your feet. It's kind of antithetical to your overall supposed goal. So I find that to be fascinating. What did you think about Adam through this whole episode here, seeing him just kind of initially think he's done enough, and then Masa calling him, and then watching him go right into the stratosphere, indulging some of his worser instincts?
Yeah, we did see a really dark Adam on that airplane. On that jet.
That's the first time I think we've seen the darkness of Adam.
Really dark.
And the Leslie back and forth last episode, like, you know, I will fight. Don't talk to me like that again.
Yes.
We saw the glimpse. This is a full look.
Well, then at the top of this episode in Shanghai, when he's talking to the builder, and the builder's like, that wasn't on the floor plan. Right. He's like yelling at him about like not having the second floor of the building.
Yeah.
Like you start to see it like kind of like slip out every now and then.
The pressure is getting to
And you know, not to give too much on the real life Adam Neumann, but you know, he's always been preaching that it's people, culture, profit, and we're just seeing the direct opposite in this, where it's all about profits for him. And Masa, you know, he invested in Alibaba, and look at the return he got. That's what he's expecting from WeWork. He doesn't realize that, you know, number one, they have all of those losses, 1.9 in losses, Miguel reveals, 1.8 revenue, but 1.9 losses. And a lot of founders don't look at the numbers when they're passing out, you know, capital, you know, and sometimes it's just an idea and you get an investment. So that's totally realistic. But we're just seeing him really scramble.
Yeah. Well, when you see the interactions he has with Rebekah, you know, the olive juice moment, the I love you through the window, and you know, he is, and I think Elishia was right to say, like, Adam is shining brightly, and you're afraid that you can't shine as bright, and that, and in a way, that almost might inspire Rebekah as we go forward to be even more, you stomping around WeWork even more and flexing her muscle as she will, and do her thing. So I wonder if that's where we're going to go. But Adam seems to have had no problem with her firing all these people. We didn't see any scenes with him having an issue with it.
Do you think he even knows that these people are being fired?
That's what I'm getting at. And I wonder if she knows what she's doing.
He gives her leniency, you know, when, you know, he, you know, their relationship, you know, this is a love story overlapping this. And we really don't, you know, we see the breaks with the pressure of the business, but he's still present, you know, they have these little touching moments and you're like, is this real? Yeah. Can someone that can be so cold and calculated still be, you know, kind of warm? You know, he's giving her the massage and like, you know, he's just very loving. And again, like I said, they're still together. Yes. Yeah. But
he definitely loves her. I mean, her squeal when they got which was, you know, rich people squeal when she got the $15 million for the, you know, for the house and those kinds of things. She's indulging the money though. I mean, that to me is they're both, I guess to be fair. Yeah. They're both kind of really giving wanted to ask, the money.
See what came into my head. What would the average person do with 4.4? If someone said, I'm going to invest 4.4 billion or whatever number into your company, would you scramble? Would you try, you know, it's a little ethics question.
I'd buy a whole country.
What would you do?
Would you scramble? Would you pivot?
I have no idea.
Rocha
I have absolutely no idea. I can't even fathom that amount of money. The thing I think is interesting that you brought up about her being drawn to the money, at least when she's around Adam and stuff like that. I think she's trying to speak to him in a way that like he responds to, because like you see her trying to communicate with him with like the whole vegan ethics thing, and like he can't really be bothered.
Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but it is like she's trying to communicate to him because it's like that's the only way that he kind of works as a person. So,
thoughts on how this whole thing went down with Adam and what he's trying to do here with expanding the company. It was at 20 locations in 13 cities, as I mentioned earlier, trying to take over the entire co-working space here, embarrassing that dude. What did you think about that moment where he embarrassed the gentleman? What's his?
Jamie, I think was
Jamie.
the guy in real life.
He Jamie Hodari, right, in real life of Industrious, having that installation put up. I mean, kind of brilliant. I'll be honest with you.
That's Adam unleashed, right?
Yeah,
like he's unafraid of like making people feel smaller than they deserve to feel.
Right.
So like that. Yeah, that is definitely in line with that. But at the same time, I think it's interesting. You could look at this a couple of ways, and we had this conversation about like maybe he flew him there so that he could set up the thing to embarrass him when he came back, or he is so confident in his ability to woo people that he thought that he could just like steal this guy and his business very cleanly, and that he would have another ally on his side in terms of just like expanding WeWork and stuff like that. He's like, I'm giving you purpose, and the guy's like, I don't really care. And your like weird abstract culture that you're trying to sell. I just want to have people who know my name, a really fun environment for them to work at, and just like a like conducive culture to like productivity.
Yeah, but my fear is, they're about the status, not necessarily, and they delude themselves when they parachute in to actually be at a WeWork thing. Remember, he is flying all over the place. He is not really staying in a lot of the WeWork. When he's in the meetings, he's bored because he doesn't feel. Because I think what I'm getting is that he thinks they're beneath him. They're not as intelligent.
Absolutely.
So he's wasting his time even being in the room with these guys, which is why he puts the werewolf mask on. But also with his own team, he feels like he's above his own team.
Yeah.
Writing the $73 million.
They were laughing when they let 7% of the company go.
Yeah.
And in real life interviews, Adam Neumann is saying how bad they felt.
Yeah, right.
I think this is a little fun fact. Even the ex-employees are still part of the culture.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And what you saw in the interview with Lee and Drew, they both interviewed a number of former employees and a number of friends of both Adam and Rebekah to get some input in how they were going to present these characters but we're seeing in the series here though, they're chasing that money and that status of the Time 100 and the Vanity Fair party. It's to validate themselves, but eventually that's going to crash. You chase all the money, you don't work on yourself. It's empty, empty, empty. And I wonder if that moment of that come to Jesus moment is coming for both of them.
You've asked this on the last episode or one of our episodes, just about being in business and is this how it is? There are a lot of people chasing those covers and a lot of people, competition. Soda company versus soda company. I don't want to plug anyone, but
you see that influencer doing all those positive comments on their they're behind the scenes doing some nefarious stuff probably to be in that position and lock down those goals.
You have a lot of copying. You have people that will take from someone's commercial and just mimic it. I mean, that happens all the time. So
we see it.
I think everyone in a professional field is after validation in some extent. Why do you think we have like award shows, right? Like there is something.
Let's
gratifying.
not go there. But
we're not going to go there. But like there is something to like being the center of attention on a stage where people are looking at you because you have accomplished something. You should be validated.
Absolutely.
And I think there's two sides of this. I think Adam definitely thrives on the success. They both do, honestly. They thrive on the success and like being seen and being in the spotlight. But I also think that like they don't want to feel like they're worth nothing, right? Like they need that validation. You see every single time people kind of put down Adam and the amount of money his company has made,
Right.
it kind of it discourages him in a sense.
re-inspires
Not discourages, it re-inspires him for sure. We saw that at the dinner, with those guys from his class a couple episodes back. We see that when
the investor, when he sees him, right.
When Moss is on the phone taking so long to answer, like he's like, no, I need this validation that like we are a success right now.
He even calls him my child. Right?
Yeah.
Like he kind of immediately, not just mentor, mentee, that's like father, child type stuff. So,
Yeah. I mean, people and journalists and investors, they have legitimate concerns that why is this valuation blowing all the other ones out the water? And they're suspicious because it was suspicious. You know what I mean? So
well, we saw Cameron in this episode. So talking about Cameron and Bruce, and then we saw Jamie Dimon at the beginning. That's Campbell Scott playing the J.P. Morgan Chase guy who wants to be his personal banker here, and calling him a ultra high worth net individual, something like that. So. Some interesting characters are coming into play here, some bigwigs, and Cameron seems to be the only voice of reason because Miguel's voice is slowly getting silenced, and even in this episode,
he's appeasing him. He's just like he's going along with the vision because he's like, okay, well, if this is what he wants, then sure, I'm going to do it.
Straight in the
He is resisting. But can't get any space with Adam to meet him halfway. So then acquiesces because remember, Adam, he comes in with the blueprints and he basically tries to tell Adam, "What are you doing? I'm involved in the blueprints." But Adam escorts him out, saying, "You can't be part of this." And then eventually, the 6 month thing turns it to a year when they're having that meeting. And that's him finally, like, once again, as you said, acquiescing. But he does try to resist. He does try to call Adam out. It's just Adam's not listening to him anymore.
Do you think Adam actually sees Miguel's value, or does he just see him as a means to an end? Because I think
he sees everybody as a means to an end.
Well, that's
except for Rebekah. To be honest with you, that's what I.
Yeah, that's true. But even then, there are like some interactions where it's like you question whether or not like. I mean, I don't question that he loves her, but I do think that he does see her as a way to get places, or at least earlier on.
Well, he's inspired by her, and maybe that's the way he's using her. He knows, not overtly, right? More like, she inspires me. She inspires the company. I love her like this, and that's why I don't feel like I'm using her, even though I probably am. Yeah. And I'll tell you this right now: if someone came in with $10 billion, he would kick Bassa to the curb. So,
he absolutely
that's
would.
The game.
So do you think that Miguel is now realizing this, and just that's why he's kind of had a shift in
I think
like,
Miguel's
tone.
done. I think
he doesn't care. He's just about whatever gets him.
It's that he's done having any kind of power in the company. Now that Rebekah has come in,
he's too far invested, and he's basically like, let me see, throw the dice, what's going to happen. At this point, he's already vested into the company.
He's going to crush him too, because Rebekah and him are going to crush Miguel, because now that Rebekah has dialed in more to the running of the company and the soul of the company, she is going to move Miguel's criticisms, Miguel's issues, Miguel's problems with Adam, what he's doing, into an even smaller box that they are not going to pay attention to. I just have that feeling, and the show is really well done how they set that up. So I've enjoyed that.
Adam became Michael Scott this episode. I don't know if you guys got any of that, but I was getting a lot of.
Michael Scott was not good at what he did.
Well, that was it. Like it's if Michael Scott was actually great at his job as a businessman, but which even Michael Scott was a little savvy in there, but it was. But even down to the meeting of the five families reminded me of that episode of The Office where they had to bring the people together.
That's true. That's true. The Five Families is a Godfather reference for you kids out there, and it's he takes out one of the head of the five families. Here, it's not like Corleone taking them all out at the same time, but he's going to go one by one. Certainly, there's a list. So,
I'm still curious to know how much Adam just was doing this just for the end payout, because he knows that this isn't sustainable.
For the parachute payout.
I mean,
the end.
Just writing it out. I mean, how much business sense does he have? Because everyone with business sense is saying, why is he trying to scale so fast? Because he needs that money. And if he doesn't get that money, he's going nowhere. So, just interesting.
I think he wants to see how far he can go. I think he actually is inspired by this and wants to see what he can create. And he's deluded himself that he doesn't have to have responsibility for the things that he's doing. And eventually, of course, that will happen, as we saw in the first few scenes of the first episode, that there is a reckoning coming, if nothing else.
And we got to mention, too, he just keeps spending more than they're bringing in.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Miguel calls him out saying, yeah, you brag to Masa that it's a $1.8 billion profit, but we're spending $1.9 billion, so we're not going to make any money. We're going to be a loss leader, which you can have loss leaders in business. It can't be your main business. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Any other things we should touch on that we didn't hit on in the episode that you guys want to talk about? I mentioned Cameron. Is there anything more to say about Cameron?
He had the best line in the whole
go
episode.
ahead.
$4.4 billion is the worst thing that happened to that wanker.
Also, he does know he doesn't have to spend it all by midnight.
That was
I
another
love
good
his
one.
lines.
They are peppering him in slowly but surely, and I have a feeling Cameron's going to be a bigger character as things start to fall apart for WeWork. So. Because OT is doing a fantastic job. All right, well, I think we've covered just about everything we can on episode 5. We'll see what's coming here in 6, 7, and 8. We appreciate it. As I said earlier, please remember, if you're going to share this video, and we'd love it if you did, put that hashtag WeTalkWeCrash on there. WeTalkWeCrash, that would be great to see it. And if you want to send in your comments, again, shows@HollywoodCriticsAssociation.com, shows@HollywoodCriticsAssociation.com is where you send your comments. Remember to comment down below, subscribe, hit a like on this video, and share it on your social media, as I've told you 3 separate times. For Nikki Fowler and Griffin Schiller, I am John Rocha. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week with episode 6 of We Talk, We Crashed on the Hollywood Critics Association YouTube page. Take care until then.